my name's Vicky and I'm a trustee here at PoTS UK, and this evening I'm joined by Michaela Nuttall, who is also a trustee at PoTS UK, and she is a nurse. So this evening's webinar is, as you can see on screen, being a parent of someone with PoTS, and this is something that Michaela has a lot of knowledge on because she has a daughter who has PoTS. So if you're here, then you probably already know what it's about, and I will hand over to Michaela. If you've got any questions, if you can put them in the Q&A box at the bottom, but also feel free to chat amongst yourselves in the chat box. Michaela's got some slides that she's going to run through, and then I think we will do questions at the end, Michaela, if that's all right with you.
Absolutely, but people can feel free to put questions in as it goes through, as we go through this. Yep. And in the chat function as well. I'd really like that if people want to say whereabouts in the country they're from or any of the challenges they're having. I'll try and pick some of those up and lace them in as we go through our session tonight. You don't have to wait till the end. You can throw them in, and then I'll answer the questions at the end. Sometimes I get a little distracted by that little flashing thing and I have to look, but I'm very happy for that. I'll
keep you on track, Michaela, don't you worry.
Thank you very much, Vicky.
I'll hand over to you.
Lovely, thank you. And welcome everybody to our session this evening, and it's about being a parent of someone with PoTS. Now, most of the sessions that have happened so far with PoTS UK, our webinars, have all been by healthcare professionals giving advice directly to people who are affected and living with PoTS. Mine is slightly different. I don't have PoTS, and so I'm coming at this from giving my take on what it's like to be a parent of someone with PoTS, and the journey that I've been on, but also how I've gathered things along the way. And I totally get that all of us will have been on some sort of journey, and we certainly have a lot of common threads that we go through, and some challenges and some joys and some bits where we're slightly different. So yeah, so anyway, I'll start off. Last time we did this once before, so you know, we did this once before, and it was a very weird system with the Zoom that we had, and it didn't get recorded. That's why we're repeating it. On the last one, I tried really hard not to get emotional, but sometimes it's hard not to get emotional, so it's okay if people do get sad, and it's okay to laugh as well. Yeah, so being a parent of someone with PoTS. So this is a feeling that many of us get a lot of the time when we pause to think about what it's actually like. I know in the beginning, so my daughter, sorry, I'm going to cough for a second. I've just deafened you all. My daughter's 24 now, and she has had PoTS for quite some years, and I'm going to tell you about that journey as we go on. I'm not really going to talk too much about her, because actually this is more about being a parent, and also at the age of 24 she kind of dictates what I am and I'm not allowed to say about her on social media. So I'm not allowed to really use photographs anymore, and unless she vets them first and things like that, and it's something I really actually I'm happy that she does that. She has very little control in her life, but at least she has that bit of control that's there. So this is often a feeling, and most of my slides are not word heavy. They're mostly just things like this, and that I'm going to talk around them. So yeah, being a parent of someone with PoTS. And this is about as busy as it gets as a set of slides. And I've put in the middle that we are parents, and so we have children or child with someone with PoTS. Now, irrespective of what that child's age is, they are still our children. So even mine at the great age of 24, yeah, I still have to force myself to not buy a little pink things with stickers on from the shop. She's, Mum, please don't resist that, resist it. So yeah, they aren't stuff that I end up giving to the charity shop. So I'm going to spend tonight with the focus of me and you being parents of somebody with PoTS, and I'm going to explore these 6 different areas: diagnosis, treatment, friends and family, education, work and money, and health. And I don't have all the answers at all. I really don't. I can just share with you the bits and bobs that I know. And so I'm going to start with the diagnosis, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about my journey and Annabelle's journey, of which, you know, there has been highs and lows across the way. So in the beginning, And I'm sure this might resonate with many of you. I totally ignored my daughter's symptoms. It's probably even worse if you're a parent in any way related to the healthcare profession. Totally ignored them. Just thought she was playing up. I thought she was probably going out drinking. She was about 14. She was a bit of a, not quite a wild child, but I just said, you can do what you want as long as you pull the grades. And she was an A-star student, so she could stay out and all that sort of stuff. Then her grades started to slip. She started to, she got a bit of glandular fever. She had a bit of a kidney infection, and she had these other weird things going on. And I just kept thinking, oh, pull yourself together, child. You'll be fine. You can, get over this. And she was always what I called my bounce back queen. So whenever she got a bit poorly, she'd be off sick, and then she'd bounce back and she'd make up on her exams and she'd do all that. And so I never really had to worry. So I put my head in the sand and I really didn't do it. But then as time went on and these symptoms were getting worse and worse, and her symptoms were fatigue and tiredness. Her memory wasn't quite as good as it was. She used to fall asleep in class, and we now know that was pre-syncope. And we really didn't have a clue what was going on. The school came down on her hard and said, your grades are slipping, and so what we have to do is put you on report. They gave, I did the world's worst things. I made her not do her homework sitting on the bed, but actually do your homework. I set up a whole workstation for her, got her a desk, a chair, so her legs were dangling down, made her do that, put her in with tutors, did everything I thought was the right thing to do at that point in time. And all I was doing was applying pressure on top of her body that was already being bashed in quite a lot of ways. So didn't really know what to do, didn't really know where to turn, but knew something wasn't quite right after a bit of time. And so went back forwards to the GP a little bit. And it was only really on holiday once that I noticed that she was in the swimming pool and she couldn't talk to me while swimming. And we've always been able to do that sort of thing. And I thought, bloody hell, she's breathless, absolutely breathless. And I'd not come across that. Then when we got home, I started watching her on hills, and she couldn't walk and talk off a hill. And I realized that this wasn't normal. This wasn't right for a child her age. Now, of course, like many of us, we have a lot of questions when our children have these sorts of symptoms, and I really didn't have a clue what to do. And we were really fortunate that we used to have a lovely GP, absolutely beautiful, and he was really kind and lovely. Anyway, one day we couldn't see him, and we had to go and see another GP, and I wasn't happy because he wasn't the one I always saw. Anyway, this new GP said to us, I don't know what's going on, just describe it all again. And so we did. And he said, Annabelle, I don't know what's wrong, but I know something isn't right. And that was a wonderful sort of news to hear, that someone was taking an interest and realised that. So we ended up progressing towards, first of all, a rheumatologist, because they were wondering about chronic fatigue. The rheumatologist, great guy, offered a replacement in the summer to be able to entice her into do medicine, but looked for Ehlers-Danlos loss and couldn't find it. Now, that's where I learned that not all rheumatologists know how to look for Ehlers-Danlos loss. He sent us to an endocrinologist, who then knew exactly what was going on, and sent us and said, look at this screen for a minute, which was the PoTS UK website. And it was like all the pieces fell into place. It took a while to get a diagnosis, and many of you I know will struggle with accessing care, and we are very fortunate. We live in South East London, and our local hospital is King's, and our local cardiologist is Nick Gall. So Team Gall all the way. We were really, really fortunate. So getting a diagnosis is really important, but it's only the first step. Then you have to move towards treatment. Now I've made that sound quite short. That was about 18 months, more or less, a year, 18 months, still struggling on with school and things like that. Now, I'm sure many of us have done this, that you think, okay, I am going to sort this. I am going to do as much research as I can, trying to find out just what sort of things can I do to make my kid better. And that was my challenge. I was going to fix her. I fix everything. I'm not that organized. I'm gently chaotic, but I fix lots of things, quick decision making, problem solving, all of that sort of stuff. I was going to fix her. And I looked at things, people gave me advice, compression stockings. Okay, brilliant. Went online, went online, ordered loads of compression stockings. Only then did I find out she can't tolerate them because she's got Ehlers-Danlos and probably some sort of small nerve, whatever, damage thingy. Can't tolerate tight things on her skin. That didn't work. They said, have a lot of salt. So I thought, right, I'll get that salt inside if it kills me. And so I bought a lot of bouillon stock cubes, all different ones, made her drink them until about 3 days later, her mouth was dry and sore and cracked. And she was like, Mum, please, I can't drink this anymore. And then I thought, oh, her sleep is awful. I know what I've got to do. If I just fix the sleep, everything else will fall into place. Got her to the neurologist for sleep studies, all of that sort of stuff. We can't just fix the sleep. So I finally learned out that I can't fix them. And that is it was a huge milestone for me, realizing that I couldn't fix my daughter. And it takes a while to get to that point that you can't fix them. There's things that you can do to help them, but also they have to want to help themselves. And that is really hard. We imagine that our children are going to be like us, but we have that life experience. We are parents. We've got to get up in the morning because we've got to look after the kids, whereas they don't have those life experiences to be able to draw upon. And also we're trying to fix them. And so I rapidly learned there's no fixing. For us, there was no fixing for anything. There was just about trying to manage the symptoms that we had. And that was one of the huge milestones for me. I have to say, a personal milestone of coming to terms with that. And I know, so I'm part of a parent support group that we do on Facebook, and I know lots of mums and dads, when they first start out, they're desperately trying to fix things. And so, yeah, if I had little gems of things, it's like, don't beat yourself up when you can't fix it. Okay. Now, being a parent of somebody with PoTS means you're often, a lot of this is important. So getting access to treatment is, you will become your child's advocate. You will, whatever age they are, you will carry the folders around. You will be the one that collates everything. There is no single person in the NHS that is going to do this for you. So be a little bit organized, okay? Get yourself sorted. But also, I find when you want to be believed, and this is something that comes on over and over again, and again, I've learned this, you want to go in and tell them, oh, A to Z of everything that's going on. But actually, it's about condensing it down, because I try and put myself in the healthcare professional space where I know when I was seeing patients, you don't get a lot of time between patients. And if people keep telling you things over and over again, you're trying really hard to process it all. But actually, it's a load of new stuff. And then you've got to see the next patient with another load of new stuff. So it's about being really concise with what you want, I think. And so what I do is I have, particularly when I was starting out, I had a sheet that I would give all the different healthcare professionals. And I'd have like a very mini potted past medical history with the top 5 symptoms that are the worst, and then all the other ones that are bad at the bottom. But if you start to list your symptoms and they'll listen to when you've got to symptom 25, but it's too much to do in a short appointment. So have that bit of paper ready. I take it everywhere. I update it all the time. I have all the different operations on it, things like that. But it really helps sort of consolidate where you're at, is handing one piece of paper over rather than that big folder. Never be embarrassed of being a pushy parent. I do it all the time. And I have ways of being pushy in a way that I try and do it so it's not so unfriendly. So, you're desperate for an appointment. They say it's going to be in 3 months' time. So I speak to the people at the the booking place, the appointment bookings. And I often say, I hope you don't mind. I'm just going to let you know in advance. I'm going to phone you every day to ask for a cancellation. I said, I know you're really busy, but I'm just to let you know that's what I'm going to do. I'm also really nice on the phone to anyone that might be organising appointments, because I just think they get a lot of really angry people and upset people. So I want to be the different one on that phone that they may respond to more, because yes, it's important for everybody else, but at this point in time, I am my child's advocate, and I want to have it so it works for me. So learning how to work the systems, being friends with secretaries, being nice to them, that, being nice and kind is effortless, it doesn't cost any money, but it can get us a long way. There is also something about having a bit of balance to be had, that balance in everything. And I am pretty rubbish at balance, and we try and teach our children pacing and all of that. But the balance of shifting, and it's taken me years to try and shift. My daughter was incredibly independent. I always laugh, she was born independent. You know, she came out, she was independent. If she was getting ready, she didn't even like you to help her putting a coat on. You know, she was so independent. And now she's become so dependent. And I know she's frustrated by that as well, but scared of it all. And so we have slowly, you know, doesn't like phone calls, struggles with the brain fog, for sorting out appointments. So we're shifting this balance between me and her, we're getting her to become more independent again. And that's getting them to take more responsibility on. And so this is what came from a conversation that I had with my daughter. Well, I had with Vicky actually, and then I had with my daughter. And I asked her a couple of questions. Vicky, I'm just going to let you know, I'm probably going to talk for about more than 30 minutes, probably going to be more like 35 now, because I'm waxing lyrical, but I'll speed up a bit as time goes on.
That's absolutely fine, Michaela.
Is that all right? In case anybody hadn't noticed, I talk a lot. And I talk a lot on Zoom at the moment, so I'm dead happy chatting away on Zoom. Thank you, darling. So this is something that I hadn't really thought about until I started to have these, it was discussions with Vicky on thinking what sort of things. So, and then I asked my daughter, and so she totally was like, yeah, Mum, that's me. So they often wonder, do you feel guilty? Do you feel guilty about me being ill? Do you feel guilty that you couldn't fix me? Do you feel guilty about all of these things? And actually the answer is, yeah, I feel really guilty. I feel really bad that, you know, well, she's got Ehlers-Danlos, it's a genetic thing. I'm not that affected, but clearly it's got her. She talks about not having children herself because she doesn't want children to ever have to go through what she's going through. The guilt is pretty big, I think, pretty big as for us in adults. But they're also wondering it too. So that's a really good conversation you can have with your child, depending on their age and where they're at. They also wonder, do you blame yourself? And also, like, you were unable to protect me from this. And that one absolutely got me when Annabelle said that. You know, do I blame myself? And of course I blame myself. I go back over, you know, less so now, but I do go back over all the different times when, if I'd have just done this different, would this not have happened? If I'd have noticed the glandular fever earlier, would we have got treatment earlier? Would I have, if I'd have noticed the kidney infection earlier, which I totally ignored, told her to have a bath and a bit of paracetamol. She'd been to Winter Wonderland playing on the Dodgems. No wonder she had a pain in her side. And it was Christmas Day, and oh my gosh, just chop those vegetables. You know, of course I reflect back on those things, but that doesn't get us anywhere. We always have to keep looking forwards. So let's go to friends and family, and this is a really emotive, not that all of these are really emotive, but really emotive. Now, of course, friends and family are really a big thing, and I can only talk, so Annabelle doesn't have siblings, I've only got one kid. We've got a cat, Reggie, which is okay. So I don't know how hard it must be to distribute yourself amongst different children if you've got more than one. I really don't know what that balance is like. You know, if you're spending lots of time with this one, do the other two get cross, and you know, that sort of thing. But I do know that actually what it's like to have a partner, and it can be really difficult. So my husband and I, well, 31 years now we've been married, but for the first 2 years of Annabelle being ill, I slept in the spare room with her. She was too afraid of sleeping by herself. She used to sleep clenching my nightdress. You know, this is a kid that didn't want to be near me, clenching my nightdress. And so yeah, we slept 2 years apart. Very challenging on relationships, this. And you know, she comes first. She has to come first. And yeah, I'll, you know, if we've got to take her to hospital, you've got to take her to hospital and things. So it's about getting that balance, you know. We've now got to we get to a really good point where we make times where we say, right, this is just like mummy daddy time, so we'll go out for a meal, or we'll go for a walk, or we'll just make specific time together. We can even book ourselves into local hotels for those, you know, special mummy daddy times, which I know she'll hate. Oh God, I can't believe I've said this and it's going to go. She won't watch it. It's all okay. But yeah, it is really important to spend time with your husband or wife or partner. You can't lose sight of that relationship. And we've got quite good at saying, do you know what, you're neglecting me too much. He often says it to me more than I say it to him. But yeah, but you have to be able to have those open conversations with your partner, because it's really easy to drift apart when your focus is somewhere else. And then friends and family, well, you know, lose the ones that just don't, you know, that are no good. I know that sounds awful, but there's a lovely thing out there called radiators and drains. And you want to find yourself near the radiators. Radiators are people that give you love and warmth and happiness. And yeah, they're just great to be around. Drains are the ones that take your energy away and, you know, take your time away and just suck the life out of you. Get rid of them. Get rid of them. It's quite straightforward. I know it sounds a bit cool, but you end up having to do that because you cannot do it all. You really can't do it all. And sometimes what happens is people that you thought were like the best friends or closest family members, they disappear. They absolutely disappear, and they don't understand it, and they don't get what it's like, and you just think, how can they not understand it? And then other times you get people that were maybe not as close, or maybe not, or come out of the woodwork and suddenly would appear. And I know one lady that when my daughter was first ill, she used to say, right, I only live around the corner, and I worked with her, and she used to say, you know, we'd never really socialised before, and she just said, I know how hard it can be. I've made, you know, come round next Tuesday, take a taxi, because I'm going to fill you full of food and wine, and then I'm going to put you in another taxi and send you home. And it was wonderful just for an hour to just do that and get away from it all. And it, yeah, so find your friends and family, and don't feel bad that you just got rid of some, because you really need to look after yourselves. You do feel like your world is broken. Your world is absolutely broken, and it's never going to be the same again. But you do get another normal. You learn to walk a new path, okay? You just got to take time to leave that old path, and you know, you've got to grieve for the old path. You've got to, oh, it's so different. And then it takes time to learn what is this new path that you're all on. So, you know, your child or your children have to learn new paths. You do. Yeah, really difficult one, but you do almost have to. You can't, it's very hard. You can't keep hold of that old one, because it will just, well, for me, it would have, I just couldn't physically do it. It was way too much. So just embrace that new path and everything that it brings. So going back to us and our children, they can see, so they think they can see how it's affecting everyone. They feel guilty, they blame themselves, and they feel like a burden. This is exactly, you know, I'm sure that if you asked your children, they would feel like this. And actually, none of us want our children to feel like that, because we don't see them as a burden, and we don't blame them. Although in fairness, we could order slightly less pizzas and things, but you know, we don't feel that. And actually, we think about how it is affecting us all, and then we do feel guilty. And you know, there is so much going on that we really don't. There's no blame attached at all in any of this. Although I do think sometimes, you know, the health system could work in our favour, you know, and I'm very pro the NHS, of course. As a nurse I would be, but sometimes it's geared better for the acute things rather than the chronic things, and it is a challenge to get through things. So education is a biggie. I'm going to speed up a little bit now. Education is a real biggie now. So not just education, but work. And as I said, my daughter, A-star student, dead easy, for the whole of her sort of senior year, when she was in her whatever school it is, she signed her own homework book. I missed it at the beginning. She didn't bother. She just did it. She was fine. She pulled the grades for years and years. It was never a problem. She had to drop out of her ASs. She really couldn't. She started them working really hard for it. Bright cookie, physics, maths, all that sort of stuff. Within about 6 months of dropping out of them, you know, I found her sitting on the floor crying that she couldn't draw a circle. She didn't know what a circle looked like. There was no way she could have stayed in education, even if we could have physically got her there and physically managed. Her brain just wasn't working that way. Now, I know at the time it was devastating for us to do that. But once I said to her, would you like to step out of education? The relief that I saw from her, the absolute relief was immense. But when you step out of education, you step out of a lot of contact. And that was the bit that I think I really, really missed for her having. But she physically was just not able to. And I think it's wonderful when I see parents and the children that really push themselves to stay in education. Absolutely brilliant. But if you can't, don't feel bad about it. Sometimes taking out is the option as well. And I see a lot of parents working hard, keeping their kids in jobs, you know, ferrying them backwards and forwards, doing everything like that. Absolutely wonderful to see that happening. Friends, when you drop out of education, or even when you're in education, when you become ill with any sort of chronic condition, having friends around you is really important, but they do fall by the wayside. And it's not because they're being horrible or anything like that. It's just they're young and they're going out and they've invited you 13 times and you couldn't make it and that sort of stuff. But as parents, oh, it's heartbreaking to watch it. It's really heartbreaking to watch it. And so what you end up doing is finding new friends. And actually, if you think about it, the people we went to school with, I'm not friends with. I don't see the people I went to college with. So we do naturally develop different friends. And for us, the internet has been absolutely a lifeline for Annabelle. She's a chronic gamer, okay, loves gaming. And actually, she has the best group of friends she's ever found over the internet, over the love of gaming. And they do get together, they go to Comic-Con, or they haven't been for a little while, and they have meetups, and her friends only know her from being poorly. So they're totally accepting. If she needs to use a wheelchair, she uses the wheelchair. They carry the bags. You know, if she needs to sit down, they quite like if you go to Comic-Con and you've got to use the wheelchair, they like her to use the wheelchair, in fairness, because that gets them to the front of the queue. They like that she has the special key for the toilets. You know, there was a lot. And apparently she went to a festival last year, the year before, and you can hide something like 36 cans of lager in a wheelchair and they don't check you as you're going through. So, you know, sometimes these newer friends that accept you for who you are can be absolutely wonderful. Working money is a real challenge on families on when it comes to this, and getting that work-life balance. Now, I was really fortunate. I took 9 months of paid leave. I had 2 jobs, so I managed to take one of the jobs off. And I knew, I had to put all the money on something, and then I got made redundant, which meant I could pay off where I'd put all the money so I could take time off. But getting that balance is really, really important. And having time for yourself. Don't try and just be a Wonder Woman or Superman trying to fix the world. It's not, no one's going to, you just got to do what you can. Reward yourself and pat yourself on the back and find time for yourself. Have moments that are just yours, where you're not thinking about PoTS, you're not thinking about the kids, but equally you're not thinking about the laundry, school, cars, whatever it is you've got to think about, grandparents, children, Christmas. Just have moments for yourself. It might only be 30 seconds a day, but find those moments and really cherish them, and look forward to them and treat yourself to them and see your friends and do everything, because you have to look after yourself. It is so, so important. Which brings me to health. And so health and looking after ourselves as carers is so important. Now, we do feel like we have to juggle the world. We are juggling children, other children, parents, work, education, the house, the laundry. You know, we are juggling everything, and we try desperately hard to keep all those balls in the air. But it's okay to let some drop, you know. My standards of housework, well, it was never very high anyway, but I really just don't have time for that sort of thing. But also, it's really easy to forget your own physical health and your own mental health. And that is really, I keep saying that that's really important, but there's lots of things that are really important that you have to look after yourself. So that does involve putting the right fuel in, eating the right foods, exercising, not having too much alcohol, but equally reaching out to people as well. So there was a time where my daughter became quite unwell, and I struggled a little bit, and then my husband and I didn't get on, and we struggled a little bit, and it was a friend of mine that intervened, that said, Michaela, I think you need to talk to somebody. And so I did, and actually really reaching out to your friends is good, and they can help you. And so it's not about struggling on by yourself. It's finding somewhere and people that are a great space of support, and that may not be people that you think they are. And also, you know, I know I keep talking about our Facebook group, but that's a great place. It's full of parents just like us who totally get it. You know, I got sad for a moment then, because I remember my lovely friend who I'm seeing shortly, which will be really good. We're doing the quiz night tonight after this. Now, I am a glass half full person. And I'm not saying everybody has to be a glass half full person, but it really is about, for me, seeing the joys in small places. It took me a long time to really value the little things, but as time's gone on, I value them more and more. So there are things like my relationship with my daughter now as the best it's ever been. We are so close. Before, we weren't that close at all. You know, I kind of knew her. We lived in the same house. I didn't have, you know, she came and went. I went to work. Yeah, we touched base occasionally. I really loved having this clever, independent, outgoing child, you know, but we weren't that close. You know, I loved her to bits and she loved me to bits, but we weren't that close. We are very close now, and that relationship I love it, absolutely love it. So that's something good that's come out of it. So I have a phrase that I use a lot, and I call it seeing joy in small places, and it can just be the little things. So I now get joy in hearing her doing a really big laugh. A really big laugh. That just, I love it. It just, you know, it gives me shivers when I hear it. And a couple of weeks ago, she was playing online games in the middle of the night with some friends, and I woke up to hear this noise, and I thought, oh my gosh, she's crying. You know, because I think you never fully turn off as a parent. I thought, oh my gosh, she's crying. And I woke up bolt upright, and then I carried on listening, and it was the biggest belly laughs I've ever heard. And I just went back to sleep so happy. I also love the little things, like I love hearing the inflection in her voice. So when she's really potsy, her voice is totally monotone and flat. And then when she's less ill, oh, it skips along. So I look for those skipping along bits, and I'm really happy on those bits. And I try not to get sad when she's monotone. So we have the Facebook group that I mentioned before. It's parents of people with PoTS, and I'm sure some of the people here who are on the call on the webinar tonight are part of this parents group, and I absolutely love it. It's been a great source of support for me. We set it up because when my daughter was first diagnosed, I just didn't know where to turn, and PoTS UK was there for me. One Saturday morning, I sent an email out to the info and boom, a reply came back. And then the next day, then we just had these little emails. I got involved with the charity, and so my husband's just come in and is looking at me. Walk away, don't look at me. And we got involved with the charity, and so after a wee bit of time, I said to Leslie, what can I do? I need to give something back. You know, I kind of feel you have to make good come from crap. I didn't swear that time. I didn't swear, did I, Vicky? So that's good. You have to make some good come from crap. And so for me, the good come from crap was supporting and setting up a parent group. We used to meet face to face, but then we realized there were people all over the country and you can't meet face to face. So now we have this virtual group. There's over 600 members. We have a super group of parents that run the parents group. They are the admin. We don't have admin as in that we don't what's it called, where moderate. We don't moderate the page that in any way, shape or form. It's self-leveling. People look after itself. I occasionally intervene. I've only done it once if somebody's being really cruel, but really they're not cruel. It's a kind place. We do talk about gin, wine and cheese, and Christmas, and then we also post in about the really awful times we're having with our children or the services or anything like that, and everyone comes as I send you big hugs and it's lovely. And then we post something in and people say, look, there's a picture of the graduation, or we went to somewhere today and she made it out, or my son actually walked to the fish and chip shop tonight and they did it, you know. And everyone comes around and goes, that's brilliant, because we all know what it's like. And so it's a super place for many to get a great bit of support. And when no one else understands what it's like going on, what it's like to be, that parents group there just gets it. And there's always somebody around because there's so many of us there. So I'm going to end with my snow globes and tightrope. Okay, snow globes and tightrope. And so I teach a lot, and so what I try and do is turn things into, I have to have analogies and all that sort of stuff. So for me, learning to live with PoTS is like learning to walk a tightrope whilst carrying a snow globe in each hand. Okay, or maybe just one snow globe. It doesn't matter. Now, inside that snow globe are all of the speckles of snow, and they are the symptoms, and the tightrope is life. Okay, now in the beginning, when you're starting to walk on that's usually by the time you get your diagnosis, and the snow globe has had a really good shape. The snow is everywhere, and people don't know how to walk that tightrope. You've got to learn to walk it. Though through time, with lifestyle changes, medication, people actually learn how to negotiate the tightrope, how to stabilize the PoTS or Ehlers-Danlos loss or whatever it is, and the snowflakes start to settle. Now something happens. You get a cold. There's an exam at school. You have a bath. There's a loud noise. It doesn't matter what, there's for no reason whatsoever. The snow globe gets shaken. The tightrope wobbles. The snow globe gets shaken. And what happens there? All of the symptoms go crazy. Okay, all of the symptoms go crazy. And so what you have to do is just wait. You do everything you can to settle the tightrope. Now that might be just looking after yourself, taking a probiotic, eating really well, putting your feet up, lying flat on the floor, just waiting, doing some mindfulness, whatever it is. But you've got to get that tightrope to settle back down, and then the snowflakes will settle. Sometimes the snowflakes take a long time to settle. Sometimes they take a short time to settle. But they always settle. They always settle down to what is a pre-flare-up state, okay? And what can happen is, as time goes by, you learn to walk better, you have less problems, and then when that snow globe goes, it can be a bit of a shock. But just don't feel bad when the snow globe goes up. Just wait, because those snow will settle. So everyone has a different way of walking and steadying that tightrope. It's going to be different for all of us. And what you do over time is learn how to walk that tightrope steadier. And don't worry when it wobbles. Try not to let, and this is what I try and say, I try not to let my emotions track my daughter's snow globe. Okay, when those symptoms are going crazy, I try hard not to get upset, because it doesn't make any help. It doesn't help at all. Doesn't steady the tightrope, doesn't make the snow settle any faster. But I just need to know that actually the snow will settle. It always does. And you know what? When those snowflakes aren't shaking, you make the most of it. You don't go crazy, because you know all that pacing, but you really do enjoy and cherish when those snowflakes are settled. So in summary, grieve for your old life. You have to. There's no, we have lost our old life too. We are doing different things that and I'll tell you now, in case my daughter ever sees it, when I was growing up, I had to go to the shop a lot for my mum. Okay, don't know anybody else. You had to go to the shop a lot, and I kept thinking, oh, when she's old enough to drive, because the shop's a bit too far to walk, when she's old enough to drive, I can send her off to the shop. It's never happened. It's never happened. I've never been able to send her off to the shop. That is a big thing that I do feel bad about, that I would have liked. I could say, oh, I'll do us a favour and go to loaf for bread. Doesn't happen. I'm the one that always has to pop to the shop. As I said before, try not to let your emotions track those symptoms. Okay, it's hard to say. It's easy to say, hard to do. Have fun wherever you can. Okay, make your fun. It's really, you can laugh at things that you never used to laugh at. It's really, really important. And don't let PoTS define you or your child's life, okay? Because it's so much more than that. And I know at the beginning, when I probably for the first 2 years, every sentence had the word PoTS in it, okay? I talk a lot. Every sentence had the word PoTS in it. Now we hardly talk about it at all. So that's me. I know I've gone over. It's been nearly 40 minutes. I'm sorry, but I talk a lot. But yeah. So now I'm going to open it up to you guys. If anybody wants to ask any questions, pop it in the chat. I don't know, Vicky, do you want to start the ball rolling? If there's anything you'd like to say. Did I say the same thing as last time?
I'm not sure. I think you were a little bit better behaved than last time.
Yes, I think so. I only did one swear word this time.
I think it was a mild one. It's fine. I haven't seen any questions come through yet, but feel free, if you've got any questions, just to pop them in the chat box or the Q&A box. Michaela, I just wanted to say something to you personally, really, because obviously I've sat here and I've listened to your webinar twice now, and being on the opposite side of where you are, obviously I'm the patient and the daughter. Yeah, it's so refreshing to hear the opposite side and to sort of understand it from a parent's point of view. and you articulate it all so well, and have you on PoTS UK team have that other perspective. I think we're incredibly lucky to have you.
Thank you, darling.
And I'm trying not to get emotional, and you've done really well at not getting emotional, so I don't want to set you off. But I think that the parents of people with PoTS will relate to absolutely everything that you've said in this webinar. And I just wanted to thank you. And like I say, having you as part of our team for a completely different perspective, because our team is very diverse. We have patients and we have healthcare professionals, and yourself as a parent and a healthcare professional, and you bring that different perspective to the team. And I think a lot of people will appreciate what you do for PoTS UK, Michaela.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Now, I have seen a question come in.
Yeah,
so,
don't get emotional. Answer the question, Michaela.
Could I ask if parents, if their child took an I'm sure you meant SSRI, and did it help? My daughter has been advised but refuses. Now, that's a difficult one. Certainly some places go, just get everybody, anyone with PoTS, it's really good to get them on an SSRI. There's, as you know, with PoTS, there's no evidence for any of the tablets, okay? Everything is just mostly off-label, what clinicians think is doing really well. We do know that lots of people with chronic conditions, why wouldn't you be depressed? Why wouldn't you have depression? And so I think it comes hand in hand. Either, anxiety, depression certainly does come hand in hand. You can't force your child to take it, unfortunately. And I don't know how old your daughter is, but there are a lot of people with chronic conditions do take an SSRI. And also, if it's for depression, depression itself is beyond just something physical. Well, it's not just mental, there's physical things as well. There's an inflammatory response that happens. And so, and if you think with people with PoTS and maybe Ehlers-Danlos, there's lots of inflammation going on in the body. So it's kind of all a little bit interlinked. So it's really difficult. So I know that, I take an SSRI. I have done for about 4 years now. There was an acute event that made me quite low, and and I swear by it now. It's for me, it just is wonderful. I'm not skipping. It hasn't made me sort of like away with the fairies or anything like that. It just allows me to be me. So it's worked really, really well. I know my daughter tried an SSRI, and she had to try like tiny doses. She's quite susceptible to side effects, right? Really bad side effects of things, like many people are with children with our conditions and adults with our conditions. So have really intolerances and side effects and things. So our GP was wonderful, and she was starting on like this tiny drop, like it was a liquid version, and on 2 milligrams and 4 milligrams, and slowly building up, and did nothing. She went all the way up to 40 milligrams, did nothing for her. She kept saying it doesn't make a difference, and we just know she has a slight problem with absorption. And so so now actually we're trying something else where she's about to go at some point, waiting for it, this RTMS. So, and the RTMS is like a transmagnetic something, and so electromagnetic waves just do something. It's very technical, isn't it? I should know what's going on. I did look it up once or twice. It's got nice approval, so it'll be fine. But that's a different way and looks quite good. But I think if your child doesn't want to, it's really, really hard to persuade our children to do anything. It's a difficult one. Lots of our, a lot of the things, if you think about it, when you get diagnosed with these conditions, it's really hard as it is. And then you get told, and you got to do this, and you got to do that, and you got to do this, and you can't do this, and you can't eat that, and you got to eat this, you got to do, and you got to take this tablet, and you got to do this. It's such a the level of control that people lose is huge. And so sometimes choosing not to take the tablet is just one of the few places where they do have control. So it might be worth exploring. Maybe, I don't know how old your daughter is, but I don't know if they spend time themselves with the healthcare professional, if you're there, if you're not there. It's a difficult one to persuade, but I know a lot of people do take SSRIs or something similar and can get really good results from it, really good results. But CBT can work very well as well. and not even instead, but as well as, and that's that. I mean, we taught her slowly, and she does it now. You know, at the beginning, you'd only have to hear a bang, and the adrenaline would go everywhere, and her eyes would be upset, and they'd cry, and then we used to just calm it down, push that adrenaline down, push it down, and slowly change your breathing and bring it back down. So there are other ways of doing things, but yeah, I wish my daughter had responded really well to an SSRI. That's the only question, I think. Oh, Roz. Oh, that's such a sweet one. So someone's just said, I've never been through anything like this. So hearing someone talk through everything that they've been through over the last 4 years was emotional but amazing. Yeah, I just can't even imagine if I heard this. And I can talk about it, you know, I'm wearing a nurse hat, being a nurse hat type thing. And of course, I'll take my citalopram, that helps me not crying. But I'm really pleased that it's helping. And that's really good. Okay, Vicky, there's nothing more coming through. I would just like to say thank you to everybody that's joined in, and it's really okay to not post any questions in here. It's so different than the ones where we have the healthcare professionals and people saying, what type of exercises can I do, and what do I do with these tablets and things like that. Oh, don't. Now, look, people are putting things, and now it's making me really sad. Okay, so Paula, thank you. Oh, Jess, I'm not going to read it. Well, I don't know if everyone can see the questions and answers, but 8 years old, my gosh, that's a young little one. And friends and stuff, 8-year-olds don't understand, do they? They don't understand. In the start of a journey, be kind to yourselves, Paula, okay? Be kind, look after yourselves, find fun, laugh wherever you can, okay? Laugh wherever you can, because crying's good, don't get me wrong, but laugh wherever you can. It's really, really important. So I'm thinking about any advice you've said. The teacher thinks perhaps she should share more info about her health, and she's worried about teasing. That's a really difficult one, isn't it? It's almost as well building up her resilience against things, but that's tough. That's really tough. I almost think that, you know, the teacher ought to get a grip and maybe, you know, tell off the other kids. I'm probably an old-fashioned sort of parent, aren't I, for things like that. I'm wondering if any other parents have got children. I wonder if we've got any other children, parents of children this age. And certainly, I don't know, Paul, if you're part, I can't remember, because we've passed on the signing people up to the parents group. If you're not a member of the parents group, if anybody here is not a member, join in, because they've got people whose children are 8 and going through exactly the same thing. That's a really difficult one. And kids are tough, aren't they? Kids are hard. They tease you over everything. You know, my daughter got teased a lot, and she didn't have she wasn't ill, but she did have freckles. Yeah, so it's a really difficult one. And that's really sad on somebody asking, did she have mental illness? I wish I could give you all the answers. I almost want to say test a little bit, but then kids don't want to be seen as different, and they don't want to be seen as like there's something different about them and something wrong. But actually, it's a tough one. Vicky, have you got any thoughts? Can you see this question from Paula? It's really hard. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer.
I can see it, yeah. I've read it myself, and I can't even begin to imagine what you're having to go through at the moment, sort of from mum's perspective, and obviously what your daughter's trying to deal with. And 8 years old is so young. I mean, I was diagnosed in my late 20s, and I thought that was horrendous. But 8 years old is really, really tough. And I think, like you said, Michaela, it's at that age, I don't think they quite understand, and obviously her friends won't quite understand. So it's a tough one to tackle, that, I think.
It is. And if I think back to when my daughter was 8, oh my God, they were always falling into friends and out of friends and into friends and out of friends and stuff. Yeah. And oh, look, Joe's posted the teacher should take charge. That's the same as me. Tell them what to do. And maybe that's right. Educate the class on a very basic level about the illness. That's you know, and that might help, but it's really hard to know. Would they tease them more? You don't know, but they'll tease her over things anyway. And then, you know, all children tease each other and fall in and out of friends just because they're not wearing the right socks. I know that used to happen a lot. Or if you weren't wearing the right dress that day, you know. So Yeah, difficult ones. But I liked your answer there, Joe, and the teacher taking charge. That was where I was coming from. But Paula, please do join the parents group if you're not there, because you'll have exactly lots and lots of parents that have gone through that things. Oh, and do a class fundraising and make fuss of it in a positive way. Oh, Joe, you can tell she's parents of young children. She's in the zone, can't you, with Joe? I like that, and turning it into a positive thing. That's really good. And
Michaela, this is something that we could actually discuss at one of our trustee meetings. If there's anything that we can put together for young school children or teachers, if there's a pack that we can come up with for teachers to download from us, or they could email us and we can send them a pack on how to educate young school children and support children in the school environment. Maybe this is something that we can develop now it's been brought to our attention.
Yeah, definitely. And actually somebody else has just posted in the chat saying that they wished they'd gone in. So they're further along now. So it's Ros that's posted in. Their son's now 16, and she's saying she wishes she'd gone in at the early age when it was happening, and that when her son was suffering, and definitely go in and tackle it. It's harder when they're younger, but I like what you're saying there with fundraising. And yeah, Joe said something about managing about an article on managing PoTS for primary school children. Maybe that's something we can do. We've got the whole parents group. We could put something up. We're just pulling together. Joe, I'm sure you're making a note of this. I was going to write it down, but I think you're there and you'll be making a note of it. Yeah, that's a really good thing. And that's one of the things we do try and do at PoTS UK. Oh, she is. She's writing these down. I like seeing the chats. And that's one of the things we do, is we try and respond to the needs. Now, as Vicky said, we are very small charity, very small charity. But if things are really useful and that we can put some time into them and they're going to be used a lot, we will try and do that. So Vicky, great idea at the thought of bringing that up. We can run it through the parents group. We can get a group of parents to be able to help write that. They're just reviewing the top tips for parents at the moment, and they've gone off and done all that really wonderfully. So I think yeah, that's definitely something we can do. And I would say, Paula, if you want to help us really be part of that, we'd be delighted to have you, I think, because you're in the middle of it at the moment, so we could really gear that around, and just keep in contact through either the PoTS UK Facebook page, or find me through the parents group, or email in to the info@PoTS UK email address, and we'll see what we can do, and keep an eye out. It takes us a little while to pull things together, and then we have to put it through a process, like a governance process and things, so we can't just knock one up tomorrow. But I'm liking the thought of going in and talking to the teacher. I
don't think we should just knock something up very quickly. I think it needs the appropriate time spending on it. This is if children are getting diagnosed younger and younger now, maybe this is where we need to spend a little bit more of our time and efforts in supporting teachers, support patients in school, and to help the other children understand.
Definitely. And Paula's saying, I'm sorry, Paula, that I don't remember every name of everyone in the Facebook group. She's in the Facebook group. That's brilliant. Share in there, and she'd be really happy to help out. And I think, yeah, let's do that, because we have to do this around. We can't just sit there and imagine what's going on. We have to develop things around the exact needs of what's going on. So yeah, let's put that in the Facebook group. Well, we'll get Jo first of all to get our act together. She's writing it all down, and then we'll do it through the Facebook group. And someone wants to know, what about senior schools? There isn't I don't think we've got a leaflet for schools yet. We were going to get one done, and some parents said they were going to help us out with that. But unfortunately that just never happened. As you know, being a parent takes up a lot of time. And so yeah, maybe that's something we need to do beyond just for different schools. So schools, colleges, that sort of thing. In fact, I wanted to make something up that was physical PoTS symptoms whilst in a mental health institute, because often what they do goes totally against it, and how things can get misdiagnosed and missed and things like that. But that's for a different day. Let's maybe tackle schools. So I'll put a call out. I'm going to let us end now, because we have got a little bit over, but I think that's okay.
I definitely think it was worth it though, Michaela, and thank you, Paula, for bringing this to our attention, that this needs some more time spending on it.
Yeah, definitely, and we'll be able to do that. Oh, and Ros has said too, she's going to help as well. Absolutely brilliant. What I might do is, what we might do is start off with the survey of all the issues. And we might just, that's really quite useful, that, and we can build that and put that through the Facebook group of what are the issues that are around there and who wants to help. So look out for that, and then we'll pull a group of you together, and yeah, we'll thrash through. For those that are starting out, and for those that are, you know, further along in that journey and have been exposed to schools for longer. Right. I think we ought to end, if only because I've got a quiz in 4 minutes' time, and I'm going to get myself a bottle of beer for it, which is quite nice. Otherwise, I could chat forever and ever and ever about this. So Vicky, are you going to wrap up?
Will do. And again, I just want to reiterate what I was saying before. Just thank you so much for doing this and helping out the parents of PoTS UK and in the group that you run as well, and doing this webinar again, because it went wrong last time and we couldn't record it, but it has been recorded now, and Joe will be uploading this to our YouTube channel. So if you joined late, or you want to share it, or you want to rewatch it and note anything down, then feel free to do so. I'll be sharing that on our UK Facebook page and the parents group that Michaela runs as well. It'll be on there. And just thank you, Michaela. And if there's anything you want to say, then feel free. If not, and thanks everyone else for joining. And hopefully we'll see some of you in another webinar.
I want a really quick one. I just want to say Vicky's back on doing the sales of all the merchandise. So if you want to get anything ordered, get on in. She's sorting it all out, wrapping it all up, sending it off. Yeah, do. So
yeah, feel free to email me if there is anything. It's Vicky with a Y at potsuk.org. Just email me, and I'm happy to help.
Lovely. Right. Thank you very much, everybody. I think that's it. We're done.
Take care, Michaela.
All right then. Thanks a lot.
Bye, everyone.
See you. Bye. Bye.